Have you ever woken up tired deeply, soulfully tired even after a full night's rest? Not the kind of tired that comes from physical effort, but a strange, weightless heaviness that lives somewhere behind your eyes and deep inside your chest. A quiet fog that shadows your every move, even on the calmest days, even when nothing feels technically wrong. If this speaks to something unspoken within you, stay with me. This message didn't find you by accident, it's alignment. Because you are not broken, you are not lazy, and you are most definitely not alone. What you're feeling isn't just fatigue, it's the invisible toll of a mind that never stops moving, a consciousness locked in overdrive, draining your energy hour by hour without you realizing it. Your spirit is whispering the truth your body has already begun to reveal. You're tired not because of what you've done, but because of what you carry. The constant overthinking, the internal pressure to hold it all together, the invisible war of expectations, comparisons, regrets, and fears looping endlessly in the background. This isn't a failure, it's a signal. A sacred call inward. If these words resonate in that quiet, aching part of you, I invite you to pause, take a single, conscious breath. And if you feel moved to do so, type "I resonate with this" or 111 in the comments. It's more than just a reply, it's a declaration, a turning point, a signal to the universe that you're ready to reclaim your clarity, your energy, your peace. Like this message to anchor its truth in your awareness. Subscribe to join a space where healing, awareness, and soul-level understanding aren't the exception, they're the foundation. You're not alone. You're just finally hearing what's been trying to reach you all along. There exists a profound reason for this inner turmoil, a reason that has been carefully hidden from us by the very structure of the world we live in. We exist in a civilization that doesn't just tolerate overthinking, it celebrates it. It pins medals on the chest of constant mental activity, glorifying the relentless hustle and the mind that never rests. Our culture has taught us to equate stillness with stagnation and moments of quiet reflection with unproductive laziness. This is one of the greatest illusions ever cast upon humanity. From the moment you awaken, before your feet even touch the floor, your brain is already firing at a frantic pace. It's not a gentle awakening, it's a chaotic launch into a storm of thoughts. The to-do list for the day immediately unfurls like an endless scroll. Then, like a ghost, the list of all the things you failed to do yesterday appears right behind it, whispering words of inadequacy. You begin replaying conversations from days, weeks, even years ago. You dissect every word someone said to you, analyzing their tone, their body language, searching for hidden meanings. You feel the sting of that old remark all over again, the flush of embarrassment, the pang of anger. And then you start crafting the perfect reply, the witty comeback you should have said in that moment, running the imaginary dialogue over and over in your head, as if you could somehow change the past through sheer mental force. This torrent of mental noise is absolutely non-stop, a relentless inner monologue that narrates, judges, and critiques every single second of your existence. But here is the sacred truth no one ever shared with you. This is not how the divine instrument of your mind was ever designed to operate. It is a fundamental misuse of your creative power. Thinking, you see, is a tool. It is a magnificent, powerful tool, like a master craftsman's finest chisel, designed for specific, intentional tasks. It is meant to be picked up when you need to solve a problem, to create a plan, or to navigate a complex situation. But once the task is complete, it is meant to be set down, placed gently back into its toolbox, allowing the craftsman to simply be present, to feel the texture of the wood, to observe the light in the workshop, to exist in a state of aware peace. However, a tragedy has occurred in the modern world. The tool has taken over the craftsman. The chisel is no longer in your hand, it has fused with your arm, and it is carving away at you relentlessly without your command. And when the tool takes over, something inevitably breaks. That something is you. What shatters is your inner clarity, that pristine connection to your higher self. What crumbles is your peace, the divine stillness that is your natural birthright. What dissolves is your ability to be fully present, to truly experience the sacredness of the now, the only moment that ever truly exists. You are losing yourself in the noise of the very tool that was meant to serve you. Your peace of mind, your very connection to your own soul, is being eroded with every passing thought. The vast majority of people on this planet have never truly experienced a single moment of being fully here. They have lived their entire lives behind a veil of mental commentary, a constant stream of narration, that separates them from the raw, unfiltered beauty of reality. Even as you listen to my voice right now, observe your own mind. It might be commenting, "This is interesting," or "Is this really true for me?" Or perhaps, "Wow, maybe I really do think too much." That inner dialogue, that voice that is currently analyzing these words, that is the very mechanism we are talking about. It never truly pauses. It's always there, a constant companion that you never consciously invited to take over your entire inner world. And this, right here, is the core of the problem. You were never meant to think all the time. Your divine design is far more profound. You were meant to observe, to feel the full spectrum of your emotions without judgment. You were meant to be aware, to be the silent witness to the unfolding miracle of your own life. You were meant to use thought as a selective, powerful servant, not to be used by it, not to be enslaved by a relentless tyrant that resides within your own skull. The moment you finally understand this, the moment you can see the mental noise for what it truly is, a conditioned, chaotic, and ultimately powerless program, something miraculous and powerful happens. A shift in your frequency occurs. You find yourself again. Not the persona, not the collection of memories and anxieties, but the real you, the eternal, conscious presence that exists underneath the turbulent surface of your thoughts. You reconnect with the one who was always there, waiting patiently for you to come home, the you that is quiet, clear, and unshakably steady. Let's break down, with absolute clarity, exactly why this constant, compulsive thinking is systematically ruining your inner world and blocking your divine connection. We need to understand how to gently silence the mind without forcing it, without turning the process into another battle. And we must explore what sacred transformation occurs when you finally return to that natural state of inner stillness, the very state your nervous system, your soul, has been begging for. You see, one of the most dangerous and pervasive myths we have been sold by modern society is the idea that more thinking automatically leads to better decisions. We've been conditioned to believe that if we just analyze a problem from every possible angle, if we worry about it enough, if we exhaust ourselves with mental preparation, we will somehow gain more control and achieve more success. This is a profound and damaging falsehood. It is not true. In reality, when your mind never stops spinning, when it's caught in an endless loop of analysis and worry, you are not actually doing what you think you are doing. You are not engaging in productive problem solving. What you are really doing is rehearsing your fears. You are giving your precious energy and focus to the very outcomes you dread, thereby magnetizing them into your reality. You are not solving problems, you are looping imaginary scenarios, playing out worst-case outcomes over and over again until they feel real. You are getting into heated arguments with people inside your own head, people who are not even in the room, people who may not even exist in the way your mind portrays them. You are meticulously preparing for 1,000 different futures that will likely never happen, and in doing so, you are completely and utterly missing the one thing that is real, your life, as it is happening right now, in this very moment. This phenomenon has a name. It is called mental clutter. Think of it as an invisible fog that has slowly, over years of unconscious thinking, filled the sacred space of your inner world. It's an accumulation of unresolved emotions, second-hand opinions, societal conditioning, and unquestioned beliefs. And just like physical clutter in a home, this mental clutter gets in the way of everything. It blocks your vision. You can't see your path clearly because it's obscured by the fog of what-ifs and should-haves. It slows you down. Every decision becomes a monumental task, weighed down by 100 conflicting thoughts. You try to make a simple choice, but you find yourself second-guessing every single option, paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake. You attempt to relax, to find a moment of peace, but there's always a nagging voice in the back of your head reminding you of something you should be thinking about, something you should be doing. You try to enjoy the simple pleasures of life, a beautiful sunset, a warm cup of tea, a conversation with a loved one, but your thoughts are always 10 steps ahead, already in the future, planning, worrying, and analyzing, completely robbing you of the richness of the present. This isn't living. This is existing in a state of perpetual mental anxiety, a self-imposed prison of the mind. Here is a truth that might be hard to hear, but it is the key to your freedom. For most people, thinking has become a full-blown addiction. It's not an addiction you chose consciously. It's not that you want to be trapped in your head all the time. It's because, over time, you have simply forgotten what it feels like not to be. You have forgotten the profound peace and clarity of a silent mind. This addiction is cunning. It hides in plain sight. We even wear it like a badge of honor. We say things like, "I'm just an overthinker," as if it's an endearing personality trait. We justify it by saying, "I'm just trying to make the right choice," or "I'm just being responsible." We've convinced ourselves that this inner chaos is a sign that we care, that we are diligent and conscientious. But let me ask you this, and I want you to feel the question in your heart. How responsible is it, truly, to let your thoughts run so wild that you forget how to breathe deeply? How productive is it when your mind is so full of clutter that you can no longer hear the subtle, wise whispers of your own intuition? How intelligent is it to be a prisoner to a constant barrage of noise that serves no purpose other than to drain your spirit? This constant noise isn't helping you. It's draining your divine energy. It's numbing your emotions until you can barely feel joy. And ironically, it is making you less intelligent. Because true, brilliant, soul-aligned ideas do not come from a place of noise, they emerge from the sacred depths of silence. When was the last time you truly sat in complete stillness? Not for a few seconds while waiting for a website to load, but for a real, intentional period of time. When did you last sit without immediately reaching for your phone, without checking a notification, without searching for something to distract you, something else to think about? Most people don't realize this, but they are not actually addicted to stimulation itself. They are addicted to avoidance. They are addicted to avoiding silence. They are addicted to avoiding the discomfort that silence can sometimes bring to the surface. And they are addicted to avoiding the vast, beautiful unknown that lies within them. Because silence is a mirror. It exposes the things you have been trying to bury for years. It reveals the uncomfortable truths about how you are actually feeling, not the polished, curated version of yourself that you present to the world. And so, we think, and we think, and we think, and we think. We keep the engine of the mind running at all costs, because the more we think, the more we feel like we are in control. But you must understand this. There is a monumental difference between being in control of your life and being controlled by your thoughts. We live in a time where thinking has completely replaced presence. We analyze everything: our feelings, our relationships, our work, even our joy. The moment you feel a spark of happiness, your brain immediately jumps in, demanding to know why, questioning if it will last, analyzing its components until the feeling itself is gone. You feel a moment of peace, and your mind whispers, "Don't get too comfortable. This won't last." It's like trying to enjoy a beautiful piece of music by dissecting each individual note while the song is playing. You completely miss the magnificent symphony because you are lost in the overanalysis of the moment. This is why people feel so incredibly burnt out, even without doing anything physically demanding. They have run a marathon, but the race was entirely inside their own heads. Every hour of their day is consumed by an internal conversation, a silent conflict, a series of imaginary scenarios playing out with no end in sight. But here is the most liberating truth of all. Your mind was never ever designed to hold everything. It was meant to be a flow-through system. It was designed to process information, to observe the world, to let go of what is no longer needed, and to move on. You do not have to keep replaying that comment someone made last week. It's over. Let it go. You do not have to mentally map out every possible outcome for your entire future by tonight. You are not a supercomputer, you are a spiritual being. And you definitely do not need to mentally prepare for every single version of tomorrow that your anxious mind can conjure up. What you truly need, more than anything else, is space, mental space. The space to breathe, the space to simply exist, the space to feel your own divine presence without having to earn it through a constant churn of thoughts. The most powerful, centered, and truly successful people you know are not overthinkers. They are not caught up in a web of 10 imaginary problems. They have mastered one simple, profound art, the art of knowing when to pause. Not because they are lazy, but because they understand this sacred principle. Stillness is not the absence of productivity. It is the gateway to clarity. We've been conditioned to believe that a constantly busy mind means we are being productive, that the more we think, the smarter, sharper, and more prepared we become. But there's a twist that most people never question. The mind does not get sharper through constant, relentless use. It sharpens through recovery, just like a muscle in your body. You would never expect to get stronger by lifting weights all day, every day, without any rest. The muscle would become strained, fatigued, and eventually it would break down. Yet, we expect our minds to perform under this insane constant pressure, with no pause, no silence, and no stillness. And that is the trap. Because what starts as simple thinking quickly devolves into overthinking, which then spirals into anxiety, and anxiety inevitably leads to exhaustion until your mind is so cluttered that you can no longer tell which thoughts are real and which are just conditioned noise. Let's go deeper. The human brain is not designed to solve everything through thought alone. It's designed to detect patterns from the world around you, to feel signals from your body, and to respond with wisdom, not just react with fear. But when you're thinking all the time, you become disconnected from these other, more ancient and wise systems. You stop listening to your intuition, you override your gut instincts. You begin to doubt your own inner wisdom because now everything has to be filtered through the chaotic stream of constant thoughts. Have you ever had a moment where you just knew with every fiber of your being that something was right or that something was wrong, but you ignored it because your logical mind kept second-guessing it? That is precisely what happens when thinking takes over. It replaces knowing. And here's the thing, most of your life's greatest breakthroughs will not come from thinking harder. They will come from seeing more clearly. And clarity doesn't happen when you're tangled up in 10 layers of mental commentary. It happens in the quiet moments. It happens during a walk with no destination, when you are simply observing the world. It happens when you sit with yourself and resist the urge to reach for a distraction. It happens when you engage in something that isn't logical or productive, but is simply alive. This is why the most creative, intuitive, and self-aware people you meet intentionally make space to not think. Not because they are avoiding their problems, but because they understand that not every solution lives inside their thoughts. Some of the most important messages your soul needs to give you are whispered, not shouted, and you can only hear those whispers when you stop drowning them out with unnecessary noise. So, the next time you catch yourself spiraling into thought, chasing 1,000 mental threads like a hamster in a wheel, I want you to do this. Pause, breathe, and step back. Because the ultimate goal isn't to control every single thought. The goal is to remember that you are not your thoughts. There is a profound silence beneath your thinking that most people never learn to access. And this silence isn't empty, it is intelligent. We so often confuse noise with clarity. We think that if we just analyze more, plan more, and rehearse more, we will finally feel ready for life. But the truth is, readiness isn't born from overthinking. It is born from trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the moment, and trust that not everything needs to be figured out in advance. Think about it. How many times have you had a perfectly clear insight while you were in the shower or while you were driving with no particular goal in mind? Those moments when you weren't trying to think, but something just clicked, that wasn't a coincidence. That was your true awareness finally having enough space to surface without being drowned in the constant noise of commentary. When you stop trying to mentally solve everything, a new, deeper intelligence steps forward, a kind that is quieter but infinitely wiser. And here is something else that is rarely talked about. You do not have to engage with every thought that shows up in your mind. Not every thought deserves a meeting in the boardroom of your consciousness. Some thoughts just need to pass by like clouds in the sky. But because we've been trained to believe our thoughts are always important, we let them hijack our peace. One random thought about the past, and now your whole day is tinted with regret. One anxious prediction about the future, and now you are paralyzed by a reality that doesn't even exist yet. Here is the truth no one ever tells you. You are the awareness that notices the thought, not the thought itself. And when you truly realize this, you stop trying to fix every mental loop. You stop arguing with yourself in your head. You stop trying to win against thoughts that were never real to begin with. Because the moment you stop treating your mind like a courtroom, it becomes a canvas. And suddenly, you have the space to feel again, to breathe again, to truly live again. There is a kind of power in silence that no amount of thinking can ever replicate. Because silence doesn't just help you relax, it helps you remember. It helps you remember what truly matters. It helps you remember what is real. And it helps you remember who you are beneath all the noise. There's a dangerous belief that runs quietly in the background of modern life. The belief that if you're not constantly thinking, you're falling behind. That silence is laziness. That stillness is weakness. And it is this exact belief that keeps people stuck in a loop of exhaustion and overwhelm, all while being convinced they are being productive. But have you noticed? The more you force yourself to think your way out of something, the more tangled it becomes. You solve one problem in your head, and 3 new worries pop up to take its place. It's like a game of mental whack-a-mole, and over time, this mental overload doesn't just drain your energy, it blinds you to what is already working. You miss out on real connections, you miss the small wins, and you miss the present moment because you are too busy living in a future that hasn't arrived yet. Here's a concept most people overlook. Your attention is your most valuable currency, and every thought is a transaction. You are either spending it wisely, or you are leaking it into stories, fears, and hypotheticals that give you nothing back. So, what happens when you stop paying with your peace? You start noticing things. You notice the way your body feels when you are in alignment. You notice the way certain people either charge or drain your energy. You notice the way your own intuition whispers the right next move, not from logic, but from resonance. That is the turning point. When you stop treating your thoughts like facts, when you stop treating your mental noise like truth, you get your life back. Because the thoughts that used to run the show, they lose their grip. They lose their volume. They lose their authority. Suddenly, you can be in a crowded room and still feel peace. You can face uncertainty and still feel grounded. You can look at your own thoughts and say, "Not today, I'm not buying that." And that is not ignorance, and it is not denial. That is discernment. It's knowing when your thoughts are helpful and when they are just habitual. It's knowing when to think and when to just be. Because you are not here to live inside a mental simulation of life. You are here to experience it fully, to taste, to feel, to move, to speak, to connect, not from fear, not from calculation, but from presence. The less power you give to your thoughts, the more power you return to your presence. And that is where your real clarity begins. Let's talk about something rarely addressed but deeply felt: mental momentum. Most people aren't just dealing with individual thoughts, they're dealing with the aftershocks of hundreds of thoughts they never chose in the first place. It's like a train speeding downhill, and you didn't even realize you were on board until it's halfway to Burnout City. See, your nervous system remembers, not just events, but thought patterns. And the more you entertain certain mental loops, especially fear, doubt, and self-judgment, the more your mind starts to expect them, to crave them, even. That's why when things are finally quiet, many people feel anxious, not because anything is wrong, but because peace feels unfamiliar, silence feels unsafe. And that's heartbreaking, because stillness isn't the enemy, it's the reset. But you can't reset if your entire inner world is built around reacting to others' opinions, reacting to your own insecurities, reacting to your environment like you're constantly under threat. At some point, you have to ask, what if my default setting isn't mine at all? What if all this urgency, all this pressure, all this racing to prove or improve, what if it's just noise I inherited, not truth I discovered? Because here's the thing, your brain is a brilliant pattern detecting machine, but it doesn't care if the patterns are helpful, just if they're familiar. It will keep throwing thoughts at you that feel like you, but are really just echoes of past experiences, old fears, and cultural noise you never opted into. So how do you break the cycle? You interrupt it, you pause. Not for 10 seconds on a meditation app, but genuinely in your life. You stop mid-scroll and ask, do I even want to be thinking about this? You notice your mind spiraling and say, who does this benefit? You begin to rewire your attention from automatic to intentional. And little by little, that creates a new rhythm. A slower, wiser, clearer rhythm. One where you don't need to have all the answers because you're not even chasing all the questions. One where you're not performing presence, you're actually living it. And what you'll find, once you stop giving your thoughts unlimited access to your energy, is a kind of freedom that no achievement ever gave you. You realize peace doesn't come from solving everything. It comes from no longer needing to. And that's when real life begins. The real shift doesn't come from adding more, it comes from subtracting what never belonged. So, if anything in today's video resonated, even just one part, sit with it, let it sink in, and if you're on this journey of clarity, peace, and presence, stick around, drop a comment below, I'd love to hear what landed with you. And if this brought you value, you know what to do. I'll see you in the next one.